Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by want to win a $500 Jay's gift card, a fly fishing trip in northern Michigan, a Lake Michigan charter boat trip, a walleye jigging trip on the Saginaw River? Well, join the Michigan United Conservation Clubs this summer as they continue to fight for fish, and 4 lucky winners will get a chance to get out fishing and support conservation. By Tri-County Logging. Experienced in sustainable forestry practices, Tri-County Logging can help you manage your property by keeping your woods healthy and generate income. Serving southern and mid-Michigan for nearly 50 years, TriCountyLogging.com.
For over 30 years, Vanguard Outdoors has made the gear that turns a regular hunt into another fine day of field. We know that a good shooting stick or a nice pair of binoculars can make or break your day. Our design teams include serious hunters who work hard to bring you the best sporting optics, shooting sticks, tripods, bags, and more. We are Vanguard Outdoors.
Hi everyone, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. I'm Jenny Sialik and we've got a brand new show in store for you this week. Jordan's going to take a comprehensive look at everything that's been going on with the Cornwall flooding that's in the Pigeon River country of our northern lower peninsula. You won't want to miss that. And Jimmy's got another great story lined up for us this week.
Well, that's right, Jenny. We do have one more story on this week's show. Once we learn about the Cornwall flooding, we're going to head back to the Detroit River. And last week we showed you how to catch some fish down there doing some hand lining. This week we're going to show you how to do it by doing a little bottom bouncing. Lots of stuff on this week's show. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan out of doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's meat processor and Michigan destination since 1988, offers a variety of homemade smoked meats and Michigan-made products in-store and online. The Country Smokehouse features an outdoor barbecue and bar. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By Angler Quest Pontoons. Angler Quest is a Michigan-based company building boats designed for comfort and fishing functionality. For more information, anglerquestpontoons.com. By Polar Craft Boats, offering riveted and welded boats for the outdoor enthusiast. Whether you're targeting fish or waterfowl, Polar Craft Boats have several models to choose from that keep you high and dry. For more information, polarcraft.com.
So we are on Cornwall Creek Flooding in the heart of the Pigeon River Country State Forest. And yeah, the plan this morning is to put some fish in the boat. There are a ton of bass here in the flooding. There's some really good panfish as well, gills, pumpkin seed, perch, there's crappie in here. And yeah, we're gonna see what we can put together here today and ultimately just have fun. This place is not necessarily known for monsters, although there are big bass in here. There are good sized panfish as well. I kind of feel like it's a race now, Casey, since we both have lines in the water.
To catch a fish?
Yeah, do you want to do a gentleman's bet here?
Sure. We can do a gentleman's bet.
All right. So the flooding here is regulated by the Michigan DNR as a non-motorized body of water. So you don't have the jet skis and motorboats. It's, you know, electric motors only. You see tons of kayakers, canoeists out here. And then on top of that, ORV usage, you know, ATVs, side-by-sides, that's pretty heavily regulated as well, so you don't have those close here to the flooding. So when you come out here, you know you're going to get that quiet, pristine, peaceful wilderness experience that you really can't get anywhere else. A lot of people come out here and they say they feel like they're you know, in the wilderness of Canada. And it really does give you that vibe and feeling. Cornwall Classic right there.
That a boy.
Probably pushing a pound, maybe. Nice fish.
Curtis wins the gentleman's bet.
Oh, that's right. We never determined what that bet actually was. That was a fail on my part.
Bragging rights is more important than anything else. I've been coming out here most of my life. My dad brought me out here as a child. And then obviously as I've grown up, you know, I always remembered coming out here. So I introduced my daughter out here, my wife. We spend multiple weekends out here throughout the year. And just enjoy the quietness of it, you know. I mean, I've fished all over the state, and the beautiful thing about here is it's quiet, you know, and it's tucked back up in the state forest, so it's one of them spots that you can kind of just go to and enjoy nature, you know. You see all kinds of animals out here, you know. Catching fish is a bonus, but just everything that goes with it. The birds are always chirping, the loons are making their noise, and the turtles and even down to the insects. I mean, it's just a neat spot. There's not many places like it, no matter where you go in the state, you know. So we enjoy coming out here and just getting away. You know, this is our local getaway, you know, or in a sense, you know, it's that place close to home that feels like you're a long ways away from home, you know. So that's what makes it so special.
We were catching plenty of fish, but that's not really what this adventure was all about. The point of this trip was to highlight a resource that could be lost forever. Cornwall Flooding is created by a man-made dam, one that's in need of repair like many others around the state. Earlier this year, the DNR announced plans to draw down Cornwall Flooding. However, it is possible to avoid that if additional funding is secured to help repair the dam.
See you, buddy. There's a pretty big effort right now that has been spearheaded by people that love this place to ultimately come up with funding to repair the dam. The DNR is working very hard to come up with funding. There are several different grant programs available for dam repair, and so they're working on some different grant options to try to come up with funding that way. Ultimately, we may very well need funding directly from the state through a legislative appropriation. And so there's lots of work being done in the state legislature on that, and really lots of momentum. So I think between those two funding mechanisms, you know, either grant funding or a legislative appropriation, very likely a combination of both, we really need to come up with about $1.5 million for the dam repair. That's kind of what we're targeting and what we need to come up with to ultimately to save this place.
The dam is owned by Fisheries Division, and I was able to sit down with the fisheries chief and learn more about the DNR's perspective on Cornwall.
This is a dam that is owned by Fisheries Division and was built in 1966 for the purpose of creating a fishery. And a lot of these dams that were built, you know, back during this era, they're coming of age and they've got issues that need to be addressed, and we as a division have been aware of this for a few years and have been working to try to obtain funding that unfortunately we don't have in our overall budget for the division. One of the things that is unique about Cornwall is we've actually done an economic and resource benefit analysis, because we know we can't keep all of the dams, so we want to make sure that we're prioritizing the impoundments and the structures that provide the most recreational benefit. The thing about Cornwall is it is the exception to the rule. It is the one that, if you were to remove it, would likely result in loss of recreational use and benefits compared to other structures where the resource will benefit, the connectivity of the river far outweigh the benefits of having the dam. And so, you know, we've looked at it from a fisheries standpoint, canoe, kayaking, hiking, the recreational benefits for this, we know are important and we value those.
I mean, look at the bend in that
Having
rod.
stood on the dam myself, it doesn't look like a structure that's ready to fail, which led me to ask Randy what exactly is wrong with the current structure.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I think even some of the inspections today that were visual are not conclusive, right? So one of the things that we're doing to just make sure we understand the threat is to have a geotechnical analysis of the dam, where they actually take sediment cores, videotape of the outlet, a full analysis so that we really know the timeline necessary. Does this need to be repaired tomorrow or in 2 years or even longer than that? And so that analysis and inspection is going to be critical, and it's going to be done independent of any agency.
Local conservation organization Huron Pines has been heavily involved in the efforts to repair the dam at Cornwall, something they usually do not advocate for.
Our organization Huron Pines, we're a conservation organization based in northern Michigan. We worked pretty closely with the Department of Natural Resources to vet different ideas on what we could do or what we should do with Cornwall flooding. Typically our organization is in the business of dam removal. It generally is healthier for the river system, but this site is a little bit different. And one of the interesting things, or the things that is one of the biggest impacts from having dams on the landscape, is the thermal pollution. Once the water though comes out of the flooding and before it reaches the Pigeon River, it actually cools down. So the thermal pollution isn't an issue for the Pigeon River because of Cornwall flooding.
A few years back, Huron Pines was able to secure a grant for the work needed to be done to save Cornwall flooding. However, the project was more expensive than originally anticipated, and additional funding is still needed today.
We wrote a grant to the Department of Natural Resources and received funding in 2018 to engage with an engineer to sit down and kind of talk through how we could fix the dam. And we realized that the actual cost of construction was about double at that time of what we had in place. And so that really caused us all to kind of pause and start to have to rethink what our next steps were. My hope is that we can find additional funding for the site so that we can go in, do a minimal amount of drawdown, because we all would like to retain as much of the current fishery as possible in the flooding and be able to replace the dam structure.
So we're standing on the point, what is referred to as the point. People from all over the state know this place. They have long family histories of camping here, like literally for decades. And again, these are unimproved camping spots. These are not, it's not a state forest campground by any stretch. These are just places that are special to people that they've been coming to for literally decades. And so you'll see like the fire pits that people have, again, brought in here on their own that have in memory of plaques, because there's so much history here with people that have made generational memories camping at these different spots that are dotted around the flooding.
I think that's one of the coolest parts when you come out here on the weekend is you see them grandpas and and they got their grandson or their granddaughter out here, and you hear the giggling and the laughing and stuff,
Yes.
and like that's really the cool part about this spot, and like I always smile when I hear them kids giggling, it's just like,
yeah, that's like on Saturday. Like I heard the kids,
right,
laughing
long before you seen them,
long before I saw them.
Yeah.
And then I came around the corner and here there are 4 kids in a 12-foot boat with dad,
Yeah.
out there just
and that's what it's all about,
having a blast.
That's where I started, right? My dad brought me out here in a canoe, and then again, my daughter, as she got older, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years old,
Yep.
we're bringing her out here, and it's like just passing that, heritage on of Cornwall, and like,
Yep.
we're gonna go to Cornwall for the day, and she'd get excited, all right, because she knows we're gonna come out here and we're gonna catch a pile of small bass, but to her, they're huge, and
Yeah.
it's a cool spot. I think we're definitely doing good work with trying to save this. I mean, I think it's something that it's worth the effort.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
The Cornwall Creek flooding means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but one thing's for sure, it is worth saving. If you'd like to learn more about the Cornwall Creek flooding and what you can do to help, check out savecornwall.org. Special thanks to Curtis and everyone else involved for showing me around the flooding and for teaching us all a little bit about this hidden gem here in northern Michigan.
Well, when it comes to the Cornwall flooding there in the Pigeon River State Forest, I think most of us agree that that is a beautiful part of our state and we would love to see that maintained. But as with most things, it comes down to funding. Now, I keep hearing about this surplus that we have here in the state of Michigan. It seems like that would be a perfect thing to spend some of that money on. But what do I know? I'm just a simple TV host. One of the other things I don't know a lot about is how to put a lot of walleye into a boat whenever I want to. But I do know a place in our state where a lot of guys know how to do that, and that is the Detroit River. Last week we showed you how to do that by doing a little hand lining, and this week we're going to show you how to put walleye in your boat doing a little bottom bouncing.
Game plan today is bottom bouncing. It's early June, so fishing is still good, so we're going to give it a try. We got a new technique we're going to try while we bottom bounce that I don't think too many people have heard of, so we're going to give that a try, and hopefully the fish are biting and we can get this done quick and easy.
And where are we at today?
We're on the Detroit River. We're going to fish some Canadian waters. Yeah, so it should be a good day. It's beautiful out, no wind. The sun's coming up. Great day ahead, so we should do well.
And are you looking for any kind of certain kind of structure, kind of certain depth, or what are you how are you picking the spot today?
I'm looking for watercolor mainly and depth. So the sun's already up. It's almost a full moon, so in my mind the walleye have been feeding all night under that full moon. So they might have already kind of got their morning feed or all night feed done, so they may be out in deeper water. So that's what we're looking for a little color to the water so they can kind of hide out. They don't like that bright sunshine right now. It's still early, so we should be good.
And then how much weight is on that bottom bouncer?
This is a 3-ounce bottom bouncer. So the rule is about 1 ounce per 10 feet. So I'm going a little light here because there's no wind. So we're in 40 feet of water, and I got a 3-ounce on. I could go 4 ounce, but it's light winds today. We should be fine.
And then how fast are you kind of moving in the?
I'm going right now about 2 miles an hour. And we got to see what they want. Sometimes they want it fast, sometimes they want it slow. So we'll see what the fish wants.
The fish were starting a bit slow today, but we did have our first bite on a bottom bouncing setup. But the new thing Eric has been trying this year is bottom bouncing and jigging at the same time.
I'm going to jig while I'm bottom bouncing. What I'm using is a 1.5 ounce jig head with a plastic on it and a stinger. And although I'm not able to stay vertical, I'm still moving, and I'm going to do my best to jig this while we're bottom bouncing, and typically it's been great results, so we'll see how it goes today.
The jigger worked?
Yep, the jigger worked.
Joining us on the boat today was the father and son team of Paul and David Nowaczewski, both good friends of Eric's. And it's always fun to learn from guys who fish the river a lot and pick up tips like just how important speed can be when trolling this kind of a setup.
So we're going with the current, and you want to get that blade just spinning. So, a day like today when there's no wind, you really kind of have to pull that blade up right alongside the boat and see what speed you need to be to get it spinning, that's not too much of a wobble or not too slow. So it's a little tricky, but it's usually right around, I'd say between 1.8 and 2.2 for your speed over ground.
Okay.
And again, if you're going faster, it's going to be tougher to do this jigging. And you can see I'm kind of out there, but as long as I feel that bottom, and once I get too far out, I'm going to start over and bring it back in.
And these fish are typically facing upstream then, typically?
They should be, yeah. They should have their noses right, in the current. And they're just kind of hiding out and behind rocks and little breaks. And, we're kind of in a hole here, and we're working edges, things like that.
It's always interesting as you fish with guys to see how long they stay in spots. We fished 1 or 2 areas with maybe 1 or 2 fish total, and Eric was on the move. But once we found a stretch with 4 or 5, or maybe even more, we would circle back and keep hitting it over and over.
Well, we came out of a 40-foot hole, and now we're coming on the uphill part of it, and they seem to be sitting right on it. This is just traditionally a good spot. So, yeah, they seem to be here and biting pretty well. It's not on fire, but we've got 4 fish in probably the last 10 minutes. So.
But this is our, 3rd spot? Or
yeah, this is Plan C. Maybe we got to go to Plan D or E if we need to, but there's fish here, so we'll hang out here for a while, do a couple loops, and see how it goes. We've already got probably a 1-man limit, so we're moving right along.
There you go.
So the theory is, if they get on the front hook, they're really aggressive. If you get them on the back hook, they're kind of lazily following it along and decide to bite it. So the front hook, that's a good sign. Nice eater, about 18 inches.
Just like it's supposed to work.
Yeah. To hook these, find the head, usually the dark pointy part. Give it a quick stick through. You're going to stretch it so that this line's as straight as it can be, and this worm is stretched out. Just one time through. And it should hang pretty straight like that. If you got it clumped up, it's going to spin, and it's going to cause all of this leader line to tangle on itself.
All right, and then what do you got up here? You got a.
So this is greasy chicken, just a color. So I made these. This is just red beads with. It's got a copper back. That's kind of holographic. Greasy chicken. It's about a 4-foot leader that goes up to a 3-ounce bottom bouncer.
Okay.
And then the bead up there, if you look up here at this pink bead, that is just mainly so that it'll save your rod tips if you crank it in real hard. And it kind of gives you an indication of when, the whole thing's coming in.
And how long you stayed in one spot? Maybe, 15, 20 minutes, and then
yeah.
You hit them, then move on?
Yeah, we're pretty spoiled. That's the problem. I'm used to getting fish like within the first 10 minutes. So I probably leave a little quicker than most people. But then I got all the electronics that are telling me whether to stay or not. So if I don't see fish on the live scope or the hummingbird, then I'm out of there pretty quick. So.
Eric, also known as Captain Z, is not a full-time fisherman. He somehow has a full-time gig as a teacher, but fishes several times a week, on the weekends and weeknights as well. He's a great fisherman, an even better guy, and gave us a good wrap-up of the day and the forecast for fishing this part of the state.
So we started at 6 o'clock. Probably took us about an hour or so to find the fish. Had to go to our 3rd spot to find the fish. And honestly, we kind of stayed away from the group. There was a few guys near us, but not a whole lot of guys. So that was good. I like to stay away from the group. And once we got into them, it was about 7 o'clock, a little after. We just finished at 9 o'clock, so 2 hours, 3-man limit, bottom bouncing. We got a few jigging, I think 3 jigging. So I would encourage everybody to give that a try because it's just a different look on what's going on down there. And a lot of guys, they struggle with, well, is it time to bottom bounce or is it time to jig? Well, you can do both. In America, you've got 3 lines, so try that jig right on the back and see what happens. I think you'll be surprised. So yeah, good day, beautiful day. 2 hours of hitting prime fish, getting them all hooked up, and we got it done. So.
And what will the next month or so look like as far as fishing down here?
So we could probably got 2 or 3 weeks left of good fishing. We saw some guys who are still jigging, so jig bite's still on. Bottom bouncing bite is on. I know guys are going out into the lake, running boards with crawler harnesses and doing well. You know, as I'm looking at St. Clair, there's a ton of boats out there. So it's really very good fishing still, at least for the next 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks. So don't give up on it. Just keep going and get out here. It's a beautiful resource that, you know, a lot of people don't realize we have this great resource here. So get out there with somebody, hire a guide, don't hire a guide, go with your buddy. Get out here because this is probably one of the best walleye fisheries in the country, if not the world.
That is a true statement. We as Michiganders are so spoiled. As we taped this story on the Detroit River getting limits of walleye, fishermen just north of us on St. Clair were getting walleye, and tons of smallies. Off the thumb, the fishing has been good in the big water. Saginaw Bay has been getting crazy good for walleye. The trout fishermen are finding good fish in our Blue Ribbon trout streams. Rogers City anglers are finding fish. Lake Chanot anglers are doing well. Our West Coast anglers are filling coolers. The only thing that we can complain about, well, is that we just don't have time to get to all the good fishing that there is. So let's all make a pact. Let's all get out and take advantage this summer of what our great state has to offer right here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
Thanks so much for joining us this week for Michigan Out of Doors. Make sure you stay tuned. In upcoming weeks, we'll have all sorts of great adventures headed your way, including some fishing from here in our northwest part of the Lower Peninsula. If you'd like to see where we are and where we're headed next, you can always check us out online.
Well, that's right, Jenny. Online is always a good way to kind of keep track of us. You can do that through our website, our different social media platforms, as well as YouTube. So lots of places you can be checking us out. And make sure you are joining us over the next few weeks. Get out and enjoy all that our state has to offer. And as always, if we don't see you in the woods or on the water, hopefully we'll see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by.
Do you dream of somewhere bigger than your backyard? You can get there with Greenstone. Whether you want to hunt, fish, hike, or just watch the sunset, we're ready to help you own your place in the great outdoors. To learn more, visit greenstonefcs.com.
By Alta Equipment Company, providing sales, rentals, service, and parts because uptime matters. From earth moving to landscaping and light construction, Alta offers over 50 brands across 7 Michigan locations to serve you. More information online or 844-GO-2-ALTA.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man.